Black Lives Matter is a group that was started in response to something that no one ever said. Black Lives Matter claims that the reason that you need a group called Black Lives Matter is because there's many people who think that black lives don't matter. I would argue the exact opposite. Not only does the media, does the public in general care about black lives, but they care more about black lives than pretty much any other demographic of people, white, Spanish, Asian. I'm going to give you hard, factual, data-driven evidence to prove this. And America is a country that takes racism more seriously than pretty much any other type of crime. As evidence of this, you have 15 FBI agents going out to investigate a rope hanging from a rich NASCAR driver's garage. You don't have 15 FBI agents. You don't have any FBI agents going to investigate buildings being burned to the ground. And yet you have 15 of them flying out to NASCAR to find out who put this rope in some half-black NASCAR driver's garage. And somehow we're a country that doesn't take racism seriously enough. And for those of you who might say, well, the only reason that they're finally getting attention is because Black Lives Matter. And before Black Lives Matter, deaths of black people were just ignored. I would rebut that as well. Let's go back to the 90s, way before Black Lives Matter was started. Let's go back to 1991 and look at the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles. Tell me this. Tell me how many incidences of police brutality against white people resulted in riots, resulted in large outspread public outcry, in lots of media coverage. Can you think of any of them? Can you think of any people, any white people that were victimized by the police in which people were marching, rioting, and there was large public outrage? I don't think you can. And moving forward, there is plenty of people, for those of you who don't think that there's white people that are victimized by police, there's white people that not only are victimized by police, but in a lot of these incidences, they're actually worse than any of the incidences cited by Black Lives Matter. So the first one I'm going to bring you to is Tony Timpa, probably a name that you've never heard of before. He suffered a very similar fate to George Floyd, yet many people have never even heard his name. Why? Because he is white. And if you're a white, then there is no public outcry. There is no media attention when you were killed by police. Hence the exact opposite of the narrative being pushed by Black Lives Matter. So anyway, here, let's watch it.
In 2016, Tony Timpa called Dallas police for help.
You're gonna kill me!
And this
You're gonna kill me!
was the help he got. Restrained.
Tony! Tony! Start to school!
And mocked until he died.
This was a tragedy. It was needless and avoidable.
From a Dallas parking lot, Timpa dialed 911 and said he was a schizophrenic, was off his meds, and had taken cocaine.
Hey, look, Tony, look at me, bro.
Officers show up, but Timpa is hysterical, already handcuffed by a store security guard. He's then restrained like this for about 14 minutes, and officers can be heard laughing as Timpa's face is buried into the ground. Jeff Henley is representing Timpa's family against the city of Dallas in a federal lawsuit. He says officers knew Timpa was on something and should not have restrained him this long.
From this, radically prone position, Tony is going to suffer asphyxia.
When Timpa does stop breathing, officers continue to crack jokes.
Is he asleep? He's snoring, that's what it was.
But they stop in their tracks when a paramedic says the 32-year-old is dead.
Look at that. Not only is he lying face down with his head in the grass after the police officer kneeled on the back of his neck, similar to George Floyd, but the officers then add insult to injury. They make fun of him and mock him as he is dead. Arguably worse than the George Floyd case. And have you ever heard of Tony Timpa? Probably not. And furthermore, I will show you hard evidence to prove that less people care about white people dying at the hands of police than black people. And here we go. So look at this. Look at this chart right here. So this is from Google Trends, and it shows you how often a search term is Googled. And look at the blue line. The blue line right here represents George Floyd. You have this giant spike right here. The red line, which is almost flat, represents Tony Timpa, who got a small fraction, a minuscule, a tiny little minuscule portion of the media attention that George Floyd did. But why? Because he is white. Like I said, not only does the media, does the public care about black lives, but they care more about black lives than pretty much any other type of life. And even if you go back to 2016, because that's when this incident actually occurred, 2016, there was literally no coverage of this incident at all. Like, nothing at all. And the only reason you got this little bump right here was just because people were drawing comparisons and parallels to the George Floyd case. And for those of you who might say that, okay, well, we understand that police brutality happens to both white and black people, but Black Lives Matter is about justice. And you have so many incidences where black people are victimized by police and justice is just not being served. And specifically, black people are being discriminated against more so. And there is no action being taken against the police officers that victimize black people. I would rebut you and present to you the Daniel Shaver case, which is far worse than any of the cases that you can find that Black Lives Matter highlights. And the police officer got off 100% scotch-free. So this idea that it is just somehow police officers are getting off when black people are the victims, but not white people. Like, here's an example of a worse victimization, a worse incidence of police brutality than anything that Black Lives Matter has highlighted, and the police officer got off. So here, let's watch this.
Newly released body camera footage of this police shooting shows Daniel Shaver's last moments. Police were responding to reports of a man pointing a rifle out of a hotel room window.
Hands up in the air! You do that again, we're shooting you. Do you understand? Please do not shoot me.
Begging for his life.
Then listen to my instructions. I'm trying to do what you... Don't talk! Listen! Hands straight up in the air. Do not put your hands down for any reason. You think you're going to fall, you better fall on your face. Your hands go back in the small of your back or down. We are going to shoot you. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
An officer then orders Shaver to crawl toward him. Shaver complies, but then moves his right hand behind him despite the warning. Officer Philip Mitchell Brailsford fires 5 rounds, killing Shaver. Brailsford was charged with second-degree murder over this January 2016 shooting. In an interview with police, he said he thought Shaver was going for a gun, saying, quote, "He could have easily and quickly drawn a weapon down on us and fired without aiming, and he could have hit us or the citizen that we had just detained."
So look, not only was Daniel Shaver, he was completely complying with police orders in a show of compliance that you rarely ever see in any of these police incidents and encounters. He asked Daniel Shaver, put your hands up. He locks his elbows straight out, keeping his hands about as far away from his pockets as he possibly could. And he was still shot and killed as he was pleading for his life. And the officer completely gets off. To contrast that to a lot of the incidents, almost every single incident that is highlighted by Black Lives Matter, almost every single time, the suspect was not cooperating with police, did not want to answer questions, was resisting arrest, became violent with police. And yet, Black Lives Matter wants to claim that no, it is discrimination, it is racism. That it is only when you have violence against black people, when you have police brutality against black people, that the legal system is not giving them their fair shake. And here you have an incident that is far worse than anything else that Black Lives Matter could possibly highlight. Many people have probably never even heard of Daniel Shaver. Because, like I said earlier, when the victim is white, they don't care. There's no public outrage. There is no media attention. And like you've seen with the Tony Timpa versus George Floyd Google Trends, I have the evidence. I have the statistics to prove it. So not only does the media and the public care about Black lives, that they care more about black lives than any other type of life, and this has been the case for a long, long time, at least dating back to 1991 with the Rodney King riots, at least 30 years or so. Anyway, that's my video. Hope you like it. Write your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe, and I will see you all next time.